Influence. My name is Mo, and I'm here again today with my good buddy, Dr. Lim. Usita, what's up, man?
What's up, man? Good to see you. Excited to have this conversation. Always look forward to our conversations about leadership. So let's go.
Yeah, today we are talking about the discipline of delayed evaluation. And, um, this gets overlooked a lot in leadership conversations. So, the discipline of delayed evaluation in culture, the way that we talk about speed, certainty, the way we judge things, situations, people. And today we're going to explore how strong leadership requires the patience to understand before evaluating. So
Yep.
let's get right into these questions, Dr. Lem, based on the article that you wrote. And here it is. When we talk about the problem of judging people prematurely, and I don't want to say that I've done that before, but as the resident INTJ on the Myers Briggs, I have been known to judge situations and people before I know them. I think there's some leaders out there that deal with the same thing. So, why do leaders feel such a strong pressure to evaluate too quickly, especially in complex environments?
Yeah, when you are judging people and situation and problems like way too quickly, that you could run into problems, right? I think we reward leadership that's fast and quick thinking, and it's somehow a skill that we can develop and get better at. But as the title suggests, it might not be the best approach to leadership. Peter Drucker, who's written about management and leadership, says, "I was taught at an early age that you make the diagnosis before you operate, and 9 times out of 10, when you make the diagnosis, you don't operate. You just wait." So Peter Drucker, leadership guru, like he says, do the work of getting a good diagnosis before you operate. Do the work of like understanding, truly understanding what the problem is before you evaluate and then make a decision. And so, yeah, I think it's pretty key that we take our time and we move slowly with things.
Yeah, I like that. And, we are recording live today. And so my question for the audience would be, who are the gurus in your life? For us,
Yep.
for leadership, Peter Drucker's one of the guys.
Yeah.
I've read all his books. And not only have I read his books, I've read books about him by
Yeah.
people who have been a part of what he's done his whole life. And so I know, Dr. Lim, you and I have both been influenced by Peter Drucker.
Yeah.
And it's important to listen to, you know, um, people who have, authoritative voices. And that's really my next question, which is, how does premature evaluating of a situation or person disguise itself as decisiveness or authority?
So in a high pressure situation, when you really have to make a decision, sometimes that's what's needed, a quick decision in order to triage the situation. And it looks like decisiveness and authority because a quick decision is made, but sometimes it's just the loudest person in the room. Many times it's just the loudest person in the room because
Yeah.
they're loud and they're able to get everyone's attention, and then they're able to like make a decision. And I tend to be kind of leery of the loudest and the quickest because I know that they haven't taken a moment to assess and truly diagnose the situation. They're just reacting. And like we always say on this podcast, leaders don't react. Leaders make really good decisions. And in order to make good decisions, you really need to understand what the problem is.
Yeah, man, that's so good. I was waiting to see. I had an over under how long it was going to take you to talk about leaders not reacting, and I think we're only a few minutes in, and you've already hit it. So
Yeah, let's go.
good stuff, man. Yeah, see, like I'm start. I learned. I listened. Come on.
Hey, it's
So
great.
yeah, so give me some early indicators that a leader is judging before they truly understand. Not saying that I've ever done that before, but asking for a friend.
Oh man, I am guilty of this as well. typically I get so animated and I jump in quickly and I get all excited before all the information is even shared, or before, like we're
Yeah.
talking, before I've even had an opportunity to process the information. I think the biggest indicator is the person that doesn't ask questions, right? If they're
Mm.
not asking questions for clarity, that's a big tell. Because typically, even if you know what you're doing, even if you've studied it, and you'll still ask a question just to make sure, or just to get that little bit of clarity so that you do make the right decision. So I think the early indicators for leaders that are judging before truly understanding are those that don't ask questions.
Man, you got to ask those questions. Let's talk about one of Dr. Lim's, areas of expertise, which is cognitive achievement. I mean, we talk a lot about knowing who you are, where you are, being a person of authenticity in your identity. Um, how do Mortimer Adler's ideas in how to read a book help explain why evaluation has to come last?
So this was the book that I thought of first. It was the impetus for writing this article. Adler says that you need to fully understand what the book is saying before you make a value judgment about the ideas. You need to
Mm,
do what he calls inspectional reading. You read the whole book on kind of on the surface, just 30 minutes to read the whole book. And then you do an in-depth reading of the whole book where you follow the arguments that the author makes. And then after you fully understand the arguments and the ideas, that's when you evaluate, the merits of the book. That's where you evaluate whether the ideas were good or not. But the idea is that evaluation comes after you do the work of truly understanding the book. And so he kind of walks you through how to read a book, and he kind of helps you um, to kind of understand like how books are not just written but how they're read. And then once you fully understand the arguments and the ideas, only then can you make an evaluation of whether it's a good idea or not.
yeah. So tell the audience about Bloom's taxonomy, and why Bloom's taxonomy, it places evaluation at the highest level of learning. Does that apply to leadership? And if so, how?
Okay, so Benjamin Bloom wrote. He was an educator, and so Bloom's taxonomy has to do with levels of learning, right? And evaluation is at the highest level of learning. So in Bloom's taxonomy, it's kind of a similar process. You At the very first stage, at the very first level, you learn it enough to remember. So at the first stage is to remember. And then at the next level, you start to understand because people explain it and then you understand. At the third level, you're able to apply it. Okay. So remember, understand, apply. Now, on a side note, if you go to church and you listen to a sermon, most messages and sermons start with these three steps. They tell you what the passage is, and then they explain it so that you can understand it, and then they give you application, right? And then they're done. They're like, yeah, I've done my job. But according to Bloom, that's just the first half of learning. You haven't
Hmm.
truly learned it yet, because the next three stages is where deeper learning truly happens. And so, according to Bloom, the next stage is, now, this is the way that I learned it, analysis. So the way that I say the way I explain analysis is, you take it apart. Synthesis is you put it back together again, because you're putting it back together in light of like your biases and your prejudgments and all the stuff that, prior learning. And then only after synthesis do you evaluate, right? And so learning on the first level is just, just so that you could remember. And then you understand, and then you're able to apply, you apply the principles. But then analysis comes after. You take it apart, synthesis, you put it back together, and then only after you've done all that work can you evaluate whether this idea is good or bad, or whether you should do it or not. Like, you have to do all of this work in order to truly, truly deeply learn. And they revised Bloom's taxonomy, and so the new last three steps are analysis, evaluation, and then create, which means you actually do something with it. But it doesn't matter which version of Bloom's taxonomy you follow. Evaluation comes later. I think most times we read a thing and then we evaluate it. We're like, yeah, that's good or bad. And then we're off and running with this idea. We don't do the work of truly understanding it so that we can apply it and then taking it apart, putting it back together, and then evaluating. And so it's important because learning this process, you can get better at learning this process, but when you learn this process, you make better decisions, you make more informed decisions, and you actually make the right decisions because you've taken the time to learn.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how so many of us, me included, really do, skip right to the judgment piece.
Yep.
We get some information, we think we know it, and we start making judgments, and then we got to go back. So what breaks down when that happens within the process, like intellectually, organizationally, when leaders just say, look, I'm just going to go straight to the judgment piece?
So when you're learning and with like the example that we just used, you read a thing and then you make a judgment on whether it's valuable or not. Even before you have full understanding, even before you've analyzed the idea, it's shallow thinking. So I'm not saying that it's wrong. It's just shallow. It's just not super deep. It's not well informed. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it and you can't do it and it doesn't work, because sometimes it works. I'm just saying that if you want to make better decisions, if you want to truly lead, if you want to, because what breaks down is when you make a quick decision, like it may not be the right decision. Many times it won't be the right decision. Just like what Peter Drucker says, sometimes you diagnose and then you operate, and then but if you do the good work on diagnoses, then like sometimes you just don't operate. So when you don't fully understand, sometimes you make the wrong decisions and then you have to go back and do it again. Whereas if you would have just taken the time to fully understand and diagnose and really analyze the situation, then you just make the right decision once.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about delayed evaluation then as formation as opposed to being a technique, which it's not. Um, what does disciplined delayed evaluation look like in daily practice? So if I want to be a mature leader, I want to get
Yeah.
better. How do I start doing it?
So leaders are thoughtful because they spend time planning, reading, reflecting, evaluating. Those are all thoughtful things that leaders do. Like one of the things that you keep saying is, leaders are readers. And if you're reading and reflecting and evaluating and taking the time to learn, it's a very thoughtful thing that leaders do. They're not in a rush. They understand the importance of the information, and then if you do the work of analyzing and making good evaluations, then you just make better decisions, and you're only able to make better decisions because you've slowed down, because you've delayed evaluation, and you've waited till you truly understand the situation before you make those
Hmm.
evaluations.
So for leaders, what do we do to distinguish between delayed evaluation and indecision or avoidance? Because we take it to the other extreme. It's like, well, I can't evaluate, so I'm going to be indecisive. I'm going to avoid it. So what's the balance? Me, I always want to know the balance.
Oh man, there like when I
You
looked
knew
up
I was
the
gonna, you knew I was going to bring it up.
no, okay, if you talk about it in terms of balance, it's not a balancing act. They're two totally different things.
Dang it,
Uh,
man.
so
Hey,
so
I'm
di-
going to keep trying. We're going to keep
hey,
talking
that's
about balance.
I'm just gonna answer the question. Delaying evaluation has to do with time, right?
Yeah,
Indecision or avoidance has to do with laziness or immaturity. That's like a character thing, right? And so
yeah,
you can take the time, you can delay. That's time. But like indecision or avoidance, I mean, that's you're being lazy, or you're just too immature, or you're just not fit for it. You know what I mean? And so like I think that's the difference. I don't think you balance those
yeah.
two. Like I think the better leader just takes the time, and if you are indecisive or you avoid the thing, not a great leader.
Yeah. Hey, for the audience, I tried. I'm trying to con Dr. Lemon to learning balance, but he is not a man of balance. He's like,
Oh
I
man.
don't like it. I hate it. It's dumb. So I love it, dude. Hey,
I,
okay.
I
So yeah, good.
no, I do like tension and I do like stability, but balance. I'll get there. I'll get there.
Yeah. All right. So last question. Why is the ability to tolerate ambiguity such a strong marker of leadership formation? And how does that equate with moral authority?
I think it's a strong marker because those that don't spend the time processing, understanding, and analyzing the ambiguity, they aren't mature or secure enough to make great decisions. They just rush. That's
Yeah.
why we're talking about this concept. Slow down, analyze, learn, understand, figure it out, learn how to apply it, and then evaluate. You'll make better decisions as a leader when you can do this. You'll make better decisions if you can slow down and just get all the pertinent information. And it really helps the team. It really takes care of the organization and takes care of people. And then sometimes you're in a situation where you got to make a fast decision because of the situation.
Yeah.
And hopefully you make that fast decision. But even somebody that's developed the practice and the discipline of, if processing and understanding it and analyzing before they make the decision, you just get better at it, and you're a lot quicker at it because you've made great decisions. But yeah, just take the time and slow down and make better decisions.
Yeah. I think that's really important for leaders to know that you're going to have to make quick decisions. That's what leaders do. They're paid to make decisions when it matters, and sometimes you're going to make the wrong decision. Sometimes you're going to make the right decision. But the
Yeah.
more you evaluate, right? As Andy Stanley says, anything worth doing is worth evaluating, and that's why if you're in an evaluation-driven business, which I would say, I mean, a majority of people are, especially
Hmm.
you talked about churches. Churches are a program-driven business. So let's
Hmm.
say take your Sunday where everybody's on campus doing Bible studies and going to classes, listening to sermons, all that kind of stuff. Monday is a great time to evaluate because you
Yeah.
sit down with your team and you say, let's evaluate this. We've gone through stuff. We've been methodical about it. Did it work? What worked? What didn't? Let's evaluate. The more you evaluate, the better you're gonna see maybe another situation down the line. You haven't experienced that situation, but you've evaluated enough to where you know what to do in that situation, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it takes practice and it takes discipline. Hopefully, like us talking about it and teaching it gets it into people's minds. It's really important to take the time to analyze and learn and reflect in order to make better decisions.
Yeah. Well, brother, great conversation as always. Don't forget, audience, like, subscribe, share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it. Sign up
Yes,
for the Rising
sir.
Tide Leadership newsletter. We give you all the good stuff, a lot of stuff coming down the pike. Dr. Lim, until next time, thanks, brother.
Thank you.